we are looking at infrastructures in Africa and we are asking ourselves this direct question. Who has the responsibility in maintaining them, in looking after them? Whose responsibility is it? Is it mine, yours, government, or the fourth person? I don't know who the fourth person is. So joining us on this part B of this particular discussion. Earlier on, we took specific examples. We went to Nigeria, Lagos to be precise, and Bayo Olaoye, Mr. Bayo Olaoye, called out several infrastructures, some with a lot of historic significance. And now we are going and now looking at a different side of it. To do justice to that, please join me as I welcome Mr. Sam. Sir, you're welcome.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. So
good afternoon, Chucks.
He is no guest here. He is my in-house analyst. He is not just that, he's also a teacher on this side of the divide. So we have him right here in Nigeria for now, before he decides to disappear. So, sir, you're welcome. So now, sir, we are going to look at some specific issues. When it comes to infrastructure, we say we want more. There has been this particular study by Augusto and Co., and right now they are saying that Africa, Nigeria to be precise, needs 150 billion yearly to bridge the infrastructure gap. So if we are trying to say, okay, we want to be able to, let's forget about the word compete, we want to be able to take care of our people, over 200,000 people, make them productive, 200 million people, make them productive, get them the kind of life that is better than what they have right now. I'm not using anybody's statistics. I'm just quoting directly from what we want. We need close to that amount. Now, what about what we already have? We can't be looking for something, whereas what we have, we're throwing it away or wasting it. So now let's deal with specific issues that are causing this form of attitude, be it from the government side, be it from the people side. Sir, will you say illiteracy is playing a role at the way we see infrastructure in Africa?
No, I don't think, permit me to begin this way. I don't think it's illiteracy. The problem is that there's always been a gap between the bureaucracy, that's the government structure, and the citizens. And the only way we can forge a meaningful and sustainable partnership is to see how we can bridge the gap in terms of sustaining the media advocacy and citizens' education in terms of how they view government infrastructure.
Is it government infrastructure?
Yes, it is, because the government has the responsibility in terms of its ability to manage those infrastructure. Therefore,
the Third Mainland Bridge, does it belong to federal government?
It belongs to the federal government.
Who is the federal government?
The federal government is the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Which means I have no share in it.
No, you do. I'm trying to put it in perspective. So you have the government on the one hand, then you have citizens on the other hand. And in modern civic obligation, there's been a call for what you call civic participation in governance or in government. And there's what you call an open government ecosystem that's been being practiced by some state government, particularly the Kaduna State government, where citizens are empowered through various means on how they can hold government to account in terms of transparency. That open government ecosystem helps citizens to be able to monitor government infrastructure in terms of budgetary provision, in terms of how far these projects have come, and to what extent does the budget reflect the actual infrastructure that government has been able to put in place. So the point I'm making is the government is a facilitator on the one hand, and is equally a regulator of some of those infrastructure. But in terms of ownership, the citizens, because they are taxpayers, own those items. But the citizens do not have power within a constitutional framework to manage those infrastructure, because we surrender our rights under democracy to the institutions of state and those who lead those state institutions.
Okay, now, how can we make it possible? How can we make the people, if I say citizens, people will start looking for who is the citizen. How can we make the people of a given African nation, the people of Lagos, Nigeria, whatever state you belong to, how can we make them or get them informed or get them to the point where they know and take ownership of these infrastructures? Because if I own something, I won't watch you come break my laptop.
In elementary civic studies or civic education, that's what you call duties and responsibility of citizens and the duty and responsibility of government. And we're told by the Constitution that the government is there to provide security and welfare for the citizens. On the other hand, the citizens has the obligation in terms of paying taxes and taking care of their institutions by way of holding government to account in terms of transparency, accountability of the power that we have surrendered to the people that hold those institutions. So the point here is that there's a correlation between what the citizens should be doing and what those representing government should do. But then to strike a balance, particularly in terms of state infrastructure, citizens must take ownership of those government infrastructure. And they're able to hold government to account from time to time. When we're able to strike a balance or a relationship in terms of duties and responsibility, then I think the citizens will become responsible citizens, and those who are responsible to managing those institutions will equally be accountable and transparent.
How can we strike that balance?
The balance can be struck by the way we provide adequate education. So those in government, particularly those government agencies like the National Orientation Agency must find a way to increase their public education infrastructure so that citizens are informed in terms of ownership of government infrastructure, in terms of accountability, in terms of calling out those in government to be more accountable in what they do. Then citizens, on the other hand, must equally behave responsibly in terms of the maintenance of this public infrastructure, rather than saying a government property belongs to nobody.
Government property belongs to nobody, which is 100% wrong from what you've postulated.
Absolutely.
100% wrong. It belongs to every one of us. Now, you've also touched a bit on criminality. Can you go towards value system? Because we've seen this over a period of time. Typical example, Third Mainland Bridge is being fixed, and people are already skeptical if the lights being installed there will be there in 2 weeks, or the railings that are there is going to be there in 2 weeks. Same thing happened to the Eko Bridge. Some of them are gone. The Onitsha Bridge that was built not long ago, that's the same complaint. Some of them are gone. Is it a value system, or is it that we have refused to hold ourselves responsible? We see, we turn our eye to the other side.
I think Chooks permit me to say that values and the failure of state institutions to be accountable to the people. Value, yes. Why would we be stealing the infrastructure that belongs to everyone? Then when these things are stolen, they get into the market and somebody buys those things, and some of those items are resold to some other person. So there's a problem somewhere in terms of the institutions responsible for law enforcement, particularly the police that is saddled with the responsibility of maintaining law and order in society. On the other hand, the value systems, how do I describe it, has gone down the drain to the extent that people do things with impunity, to the extent that people have some temerity to go and take the railings, the street lights, they are stolen, and again they get back to contractors who will fix them elsewhere, and they will be stolen. So there's failure of values, from family values to institutional values to state values. On the other hand, failures of institutions to hold people to account in terms of providing law and order. Within the security sector, there's equally a failure, because some of these things, where they are stolen, they find their ways into the market, and some people purchase those things. So what the government can do is to massively brand those items in a way that when they get into the public space, people can easily identify them as government property. So there will be a deterrent for those who want to profit from illicit affairs. So that, again, we have to preserve those institutions. Two, we must find a way to deploy technology in terms of the maintenance of public infrastructure. For example, the Third Mainland Bridge that you just mentioned has just been reworked with new railing system, new lighting system. The road is wearing a new look. So I see that cameras should be fixed on that road that can capture the operations of people, even the vehicular movement, and people who use those roads. So if there are infractions in terms of criminality, trying to take those railings, the lighting system, whatever government property that is on that road, the camera is able to take the capture of some people. And when this is reported to the police by the Federal Ministry of Work, what they need to do is to deploy the policing mechanism, and they're able to bring those who have made infraction into the law by prosecuting them. And that will serve as deterrent to other criminal gangs that have intention to behave in same manner.
Okay. Let's change this discussion a bit. When I was in school, I was quite younger. I had this very friendly lecturer, and one of his class one day he said, when you get angry with your mom or you quarrel with your mom, you don't go breaking the pot, because at the end of the day, what will you use in cooking for everybody to eat? Where am I going to? We have issues when we have political issues. Let's say political instability. A party, this party, just agreeing, whatever be their issue. And that anger is taken out on government property, taken out on government infrastructure, properties and infrastructure that belong to the people. How can that be stopped?
No, I think if you look at that issues from social movement point of view, where you have protests, students of psychology says that once there's a protest, people's identity taken away from them, and people do all kinds of stuff that are not palatable to society. I'm not justifying that people should destroy government property, but once protest takes place, then there's always a reaction to attack the state institutions by seeing how they destroy property. But that is not
state institutions. Can you attack the people?
No, the point I'm making is that I'm not supporting it. I'm giving a background.
I'm just adding to it.
Yes,
if you feel aggrieved that a particular set of people are not doing right, those particular set of people have their private properties. Go there.
No, we can't encourage.
We can't.
No, that we cannot encourage that. No, we cannot.
Why should they burn?
No. No, we cannot encourage
property.
No,
property.
No, we cannot encourage.
Anger of what?
No, we cannot encourage. I was just trying to situate the negative impact of protest. And within social movement, once there's a protest, the reaction of people is that the state are trying to stop them. So they react negatively
to properties of everybody.
Yeah, to the state properties in particular.
Property that belongs to
everybody.
everybody.
The state. No, state in particular. Then where there's a crossfire purpose, some private institutions may be attacked by form of criminality.
Okay.
The point,
now, if we say state property,
the point is...
Can we identify what is state property?
No, state properties are properties that are developed by government.
That belongs to all of us.
Yeah, it belongs to all of us. But then, this reaction for protesters, in most cases, when they want to do civil disobedience, and the police...
There are other ways of doing the civil disobedience. Leave the public property alone.
Yeah, the point is that you have all kinds of miscreants that are recruited into the social movement, and they take advantage of that movement to see how they can direct their grievances, as it were, to the state. Therefore, they destroy state property.
Okay.
But that property belongs to everybody. So the point we should be making is that there should be more public advocacy that when there's a protest, even when you have issue with the police that has overbearing influence in terms of how they deploy even state resources against state citizens, then we should not, as a people, find a way to destroy government property and by extension, individual property.
I would really love you to use public property.
That's exactly what I've said.
Yes, whatever property belongs to your country, belongs to everyone. So no one has the right to destroy it because you will still pay for it. Yeah. Now, let's go somewhere before we really round up. Now, we're looking at infrastructure. Now, let's also talk a bit, although we don't have much time, infrastructure decay. We see a lot of construction. Either they are not done right, or they are not done to the standard that was put on paper, or they've been done and abandoned. This is majorly coming from the sides of government from different countries. Can you address this issue and tell the people what sort of advocacy can also be used to make these things come to the attention, to the forefront of whichever government is in charge?
Number one, even before we talk about advocacy, is that public institutions that are accountable to the citizens must find a way to remove this corruption mindset where personal gains supersede the common gain. What do I mean by this? Because of personal interest, some items in terms of design, in terms of standards, are lowered or compromised because people have certain interests. Therefore, state institutions must find a way to do their job to sustain the common good of society. So if there is standardization in terms of engineering practices, in terms of construction, in terms of the columns that should be used for those construction sites, they must meet international standards, and people must not compromise. So if a road is built to last for 30 years, they must last for 30 years. And this brings to mind what a friend of a relation where is this now? In Rwanda, was telling me that the engineer who satisfied a road infrastructure, who finally, civil engineer, who finally said this road has met all the specifications based on what was put in the bill of quantity, is more guilty than the contractor who does the road, because you as a certifying engineer has to see how the project meets up with the specifications. And if that happened, and you have holes on the road where the road is due to last for specific years, then you'll be arraigned before the court system, and you might be jailed for that. So number one, state institution must be responsible they must insist on standard. And that brings me to one other aspect, which you may have discussed with Bayo earlier. When you look at the road that's just been reconfigured, the Third Mainland Bridge, the number of accidents within a few days of the reopening of the road leave much to be desired. People don't respect road signs. People are not properly tested before they are given license to use the road. So specification, standardization, regulators must be up and doing in terms of maintaining standard. Two, we must practice what I call citizen diplomacy. And citizen diplomacy is essentially about citizens holding government and public institutions to account in terms of putting pressure to bear. So if a road is being executed in your area, you have a right under the Freedom of Information Act to request for the information in terms, what are the constitutional elements in terms of budgetary provision, what inputs are supposed to be put into that road network. And when they don't meet up with the standard, you have the right to complain to the appropriate quarter. And where they don't even do that, you even have rights as civil society or stakeholder to approach the court to demand a redress based on your lack of satisfaction of the public infrastructure that comes to your community.
Okay, now, this particular one is more like a topic for one good week. We see a lot of abandoned projects across Africa, across length and breadth of Africa. Different things could be the cause. Corruption, like you said, change of government, continuity, contract given to the wrong, there's a whole lot. How can we start stopping this issue of contracts or projects or infrastructure that was started and not finished?
I think the government is a continuum. Government go, government come. And they put it on the street language, so they goes, so they come. So the point here is that for every project or public policy instrument that has been enunciated, whether in terms of infrastructure, people in government must find a way to pull those projects through, whether they were done by an opposition party at a particular point in time. Once the projects are useful and once they are evaluated and they can contribute to the public good, then people must find a way to pull those projects through. On the other hand, when you talk about personal and political expediency in terms of project enunciation, where parties or government officials bring about big projects that are not sustainable, then those projects should not even come in terms of when they are looking at the evaluations and they are not able to put through, so that we don't waste so much government money. There are a lot of projects within the public space that have been abandoned. And if you look at it from a SOUQ and administrative cost perspective, some of those, even if you validate them in terms of inflation and the cost of building materials, some of those projects are no longer sustainable. But public money has been wasted. So government must be responsible to look at projects that are short-term, medium-term, even if they are long-term. They must put a kind of policy instrument or framework in place that these projects must be completed by succeeding administration so that we don't dot the public space with a lot of abandoned projects. So government should be responsible in terms of the pricing regime, in terms of the projects that are more appropriate, and they should not cite white elephant projects in places where even the communities don't even need some of those projects that just come as grandiose projects enunciated by either the governor, the president, based on his personal idiosyncrasies that are not aligned with the communities that need some of those projects.
Okay, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sam. It's always a delight having you on SOUQ Pulse.
My pleasure, Chicks.
Thank you, sir. So, yes, you've heard every single thing. I always smile and I look at myself and I say, thank God. Africa, we need to wake up. And of a truth, we are waking up. We are trying our best to make sure that we join this race and get productive. So whatever we have to save cost from, infrastructure being a very, very integral part, we must not waste money that we don't have. So we should not start projects that we won't finish. And for those that we have, we must make sure we take care of them so we can now have enough to build new ones. To everyone out there, government should be responsible. I should be responsible. You should be responsible because every of those projects, every of those infrastructure belongs to me and you. We'll do this again on Monday. Remember, be good, have a beautiful weekend, and never keep quiet. Have yourself a nice day. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. Bye.